it's a very weird lie to sort of keep up, if you ask me, but I genuinely think Trump might be dumb enough that he doesn't understand that the company accepting the importation of goods into the United States is who pays the tariff. And that tariff is collected by the US Customs and Border Control. Like, Trump either is too dumb to get this through his head, or he knows it's and he is just repeatedly lying to you. What's tragic is that those are both very possible.
9-minute speech, particularly one given by President Trump. There's going to be some fact checking that needs to be done. So let's bring in CNN's Daniel Dale, who's been very busy checking all the facts. Daniel, I know you can't do everything in that 99-minute speech, but give us some of the highlights.
Jake, President Trump was, believe it or not, marginally more careful with the facts tonight than he usually is. He was on script, so this was not like one of the usual ad-libbing rally speeches or debates with like 30 false claims. But by the standard of any politician in Washington who is not Donald Trump, that was still an extremely dishonest speech. I counted at least 13 flat false claims, and that is a preliminary count that doesn't include a whole bunch of additional misleading or uncorroborated claims. He, for example, repeated his false claim that foreign countries like China pay his tariffs, though Americans make those tariff payments. He wildly exaggerated figures on inflation and immigration under President Biden. He claimed to have terminated something called the Green New Scam, even though the Green New Deal congressional resolution was never actually passed, and Trump has not repealed the big environmental law that President Biden did pass. There's a lot more, as you said. You can read our full list on CNN.com. But now I want to go into detail on an important and eye-catching claim that was highly misleading. The president talked at length about millions of people being listed as alive in a Social Security database, even though they're obviously dead. Listen.
3.9 million people from ages 130 to 139.
Wow.
3.5 million people from ages 140 to 149. And money is being paid to many of them because it just keeps getting paid and nobody does. And it really hurts Social Security and hurts our country. And one person is listed at 360 years of age, more than 100 years older than our country.
I've spoken to conservative experts about this claim, and they've noted, Jake, that the president is leaving out something absolutely critical to understanding this issue. Here's what he failed to explain. These numbers are not the numbers of dead people who are actually getting paid Social Security checks. Trump was referring to a legitimate problem with some deaths not being marked in the Social Security database, but that doesn't mean people listed as being 150, 200, 300 are actually getting money, and that's because Social Security already has a system in place to automatically cut off people who are listed as being 115 or older. Now, 2 years ago, an inspector general looked into this. She found there were about 19 million people 100 or older who were not marked as deceased. But critically, she also found that only 44,000 of these people were actually receiving payments. And one conservative expert told me even those 44K are likely legit payments, since at the time there were about 86,000 living Americans age 100 or older. Now let's listen to something the president said about the war in Ukraine.
Europe has sadly spent more money buying Russian oil and gas than they have spent on defending Ukraine, by far. Think of that. They've spent more buying Russian oil and gas than they have defending. And we've spent perhaps $350 billion.
Perhaps.
Like taking candy from a baby. That's what happened. And they've spent $100 billion.
Those are fictional numbers, and this is a fictional narrative. President Trump keeps telling the story about how the U.S. has sent Ukraine way more than Europe has collectively. In fact, Europe has committed and provided more aid to Ukraine during this war than the U.S. has. So Trump said the U.S. has spent maybe $350 billion and Europe $100 billion. Well, a German think tank that closely tracks this issue found the U.S. has committed about $126 billion, actually allocated about $121 billion, so way less than $350 billion. He said Europe has spent $100 billion, while the think tank found Europe had committed $263 billion, so way more, actually allocated about $140 billion. Now, you can get different numbers with different counting methodologies, but nobody legitimate, even the U.S. government itself, has gotten anywhere close to that $350 billion figure that President Trump keeps using, Jake.
Yep. So, yeah, I mean, it's no secret that Trump is the liar in chief once again. the dude just constantly lies. He it's hard to know what he even tells the truth on anymore, because even when he references something in truth, or when he talks about something that has a sort of kernel of truth to it, he surrounds it with other details that make it wrong. It's like, is it a lie to say that the US has given a lot of money? And it's, by the way, it's not direct payments. It's not like we're wire transferring them money. That's another thing people need to understand, is that we value this stuff in money because it's unnecessary and really difficult to quantify the weapons, the ammunition, the vehicles, the sort of like anti-heavy equipment deterrents like javelins and whatnot. It's really hard and not at all practical to like give an itemized list of these things to the American people. So what they instead do is they value it at what it's worth in reference to our economy, right? So the US estimates I've heard are about 186 billion. I don't know if that's just according to our internal data, but as Dale was describing, it sounds like a German outlet who monitors these things very closely, seems reputable, that they report the US as having put in about 120 billion. So, I mean, we'll say comfortably less than 200 billion. And Trump is out here just saying 350 billion. That's just insane. He had this other claim where he said that Doge has already found hundreds of billions of dollars, which is absurd. As of the day of the address, Doge claimed on its website that its work has saved an estimated 105 billion. But it hasn't provided evidence to corroborate a figure that high. We've heard estimates. It sounds like anywhere between 9 and 10 billion. If you look at things they've actually already canceled. And it listed about 660 million in savings from canceled government leases. Wow. So it's really, I mean, it's nowhere near what they claim. You had this other thing that
a lot of these contracts are canceling also. You gotta remember, have already been paid out.
Yes, exactly. So some of these things are not actually being saved for the American taxpayer, which is just outrageous. You had that one contract that they threw in there at 8 billion. It turned out to be 8 million. Apparently they went back and forth on changing that value on the Doge website. They didn't know if they wanted to keep lying about it or not. They decided that I assume they were trying to weigh the legal ramifications of such a thing. Oh my God, I forgot about the fucking transgender mice. This was the stupidest fucking thing all week. Oh yeah. Holy shit. I did learn a bit about this, that it was transgenic mice, and what they mean by transgenic mice is genetics. You're basically inserting into a mouse, you're inserting human DNA so that the mouse has a higher propensity to respond to certain types of medication and whatnot the same way that a human would. And again, because it sounds like, as we'll get into when we talk about the Enola Gay thing, is that it seems that the way these assholes are trying to expose what they deem to be waste, fraud, and abuse in the federal government, the way that they're doing that is, it seems, is just using like an AI, some sort of AI driven algorithm, so to speak, that searches for simple terms. And in this case, it seems that they very likely used the term trans to identify waste, fraud, and abuse as they see it. Which, I mean, I'm such a lib that I would say that there may be some sort of good use case for, obviously, especially when it comes to gender affirming care, that I think is perfectly valid in human beings. So even if this was not obviously mice, but if this was, say, for transgender people, I would probably be more likely to support it. But transgender mice, the MAGA base, how do you guys not hear this shit and think for a second, like 2 seconds, like, is that real? Is that true? Because, like, okay, even people on the left, this would be insane. Like,
I mean, it takes 5 seconds to just open up Google. You literally have a phone that has all the knowledge in the world at your fingertips. Just look it up. My goodness.
yeah, it's insane. And of course, Donald Trump's never going to take it upon himself to be responsible when making these claims. He's just going to say them because he knows it. He knows it's going to be a good soundbite.
Yep.
They want mice to be called they them. You know, this insane bullshit.
Remember, he's good at being a TV personality. That's what he's good at. So he's gonna.
Yep. That's all he's good for.
He's gonna grab those. Yeah, he's gonna grab those sound bites like crazy because that's what he's good at.
Meanwhile, he does pump and dumps. They literally clean out the federal government. They're firing all these people in order to get an extended tax cut for billionaires. Blah blah blah. It's tragic. It's so transparently easy to figure out what they're trying to do too, because we know in his first term, the one piece of meaningful legislation that he got through in his first term was the tax cuts. That was the one thing that they actually did because it was the highest priority, and it's the highest priority now, bar none. So transparently stupid and obvious. And yet you MAGA fucks fall for this over and over and over again. Like, holy shit. Spare me. Completely bonkers. He of course, you know, I mean, Daniel Dale, I can, you know, God love him, as they say. Like, Daniel Dale giving Trump the benefit of the doubt that he's lying about. And maybe he is. It's a very weird lie to sort of keep up, if you ask me, but I genuinely think Trump might be dumb enough that he doesn't understand that the company accepting the importation of goods into the United States is who pays the tariff. And that tariff is collected by the U.S. Customs and Border Control. Like, Trump either is too dumb to get this through his head, or he knows it's bullshit and he is just repeatedly lying to you. What's tragic is that those are both very possible, very, very high probabilities in terms of, you know, what's on par for Trump. The Green New Scam thing, which is just ridiculous. The Green New Deal was never actually a thing that was signed or passed at all. His climate legislation is I don't remember what that was called, but that's not been repealed, so on and so forth. I think most of what's in here is probably was pretty well covered by Daniel Dale, or is just kind of stuff he's otherwise repeated lies about. He just continuously lies about. Here was the like vaccine. I think the claims about autism, which is absurd. 2 in 4 cases for every 10,000 children, which was the old one. And then it's like, it was indeed 1 in 36. That might be the one true thing in 2020, 1 in 36. That's the one true claim it looks like he actually had. 1 in 10,000. I mean, it sounds like he was a little off there, but that's forgivable, right? Like 2 to 4 for every 10,000. Like that's kind of a big deal. And again, I think this is just like the left-handed thing where it's like we've had probably a fairly high rate of autism. It's just we're just now way better at recognizing it and able to get a more accurate number. This is to me like this is just an example of improving your methodologies and sampling your subjects better, right? Sampling your data points better. That's how this happens. It's not that, to me, it's not that necessarily that, you know, it seems to me that he was kind of implicating vaccines in this, which is ridiculous. Again, I think all we're looking at, hi Paula Jean, is we're seeing that autism is getting better at being recognized. We're catching it earlier, we're catching it faster, we're recognizing it a lot better in today's world. So that to me explains that it's not fucking vaccine. Military recruitment. This might be okay. Military recruitment is up over 10% in fiscal year 2024 compared to the year prior. And the delayed entry program for the active duty military was up 10% in fiscal year 2025. The delayed entry program is a way for recruits to join the military but not ship out until a later date. Interesting. Okay. Social Security, I mean, we got into those lies. They were crazy. The aid to Ukraine lies, blah, blah, blah. I don't know about this Panama Canal thing, but yeah. You know, and I do want to make just a short statement on that. I've had a little time to think about this. My initial reaction was to be very critical of the Democrats at the joint session and how they didn't raise more of a stink. They weren't more vocal. They weren't more out of hand. They basically were they were a bit on the softer side, which is, I suppose, to be somewhat expected for Democrats. It's one of the criticisms is that we're not, we don't have as many political bulldogs as you see on the right. People just willing to go on the attack and to say the sort of hyperbolic, sometimes it's pretty accurate. Like, I think, you know, I think it's fairly acceptable to be what the right would say is hyperbolic about our current situation. Like, yes, we are facing a constitutional crisis because Trump and Doge and Musk and all these people, they're probably going to consider refusing to follow judges' orders and things of that nature. I mean, that's a literal constitutional crisis when what should be a check on the executive branch is simply ignored. That's a constitutional crisis. I think we're already in a constitutional crisis because Congress is supposed to have the sole power of the purse, and they're supposed to fight back against the president when he tries to impound funds again that are already appropriated by Congress. But this Congress is too soft to do it because it's controlled by limp fucking dicked Republicans who won't stand up to Trump despite the fact that it is their sworn duty to do so. Insanity. God, that just makes me so mad. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I'm gonna put my 2 cents in. The
Please.
Democrats need to fucking grow a goddamn spine and start being a much more louder. Like they got. I don't know. I think what they should have done is, I mean, they should have went as far as screaming profanities at Trump at that fucking address.
I support that.
And then turn around and walking out.
Yes.
And because what's waiting for him outside? The media. And then you get all that time from the media while he's in there ranting about his lies. Yep. So that's my 2 cents on that.
And you're correct to say that because we saw exactly what happened when Al Green got removed. When Al Green got removed, he was in the face of the media. And even with his censure hearing, right? Even with his censure hearing, like he was able to once again get in front of Congress at the podium or in the well. That's what it's called. I was like, God, what do they call that? He was able to get in front of Congress in the well, and he was able to make more statements and to proclaim why he did what he did. And he said, I would do it again. And he's been getting all sorts of media attention from this. We have so many Democrats. Like, I love Jasmine Crockett, but how was Jasmine Crockett not gonna just like I don't understand why she didn't do more, you know? And I'm not even trying to, I guess, shame her about it because I still support her and I think that she nails so many other takes. It's just, why is it that when you're in, I understand that there's a decorum and whatnot expected, but like, This is my whole thing the other night with this, and I wrote these thoughts down because it pissed me off so much to think about this, is like, why are you worried about decorum when the opposition in this case, the opposition is breaking federal law by freezing funds, they are firing federal workers and violating the Constitution with executive orders. So they're already, that's worse than breaking decorum, you know?
Yeah.
And he's fucking up our relationships with our allies. When this is going on, it is a crisis. You need to treat it like a crisis. And I'm sorry, but like we're not far away from me expecting physical obstruction to occur. Like some like 60s level getting in their way. The people who've been protesting at Tesla dealerships this weekend, I love that. They're just going in there and they're sitting down and they are forcing a situation where they are to be removed by law enforcement. They are making the system do its fucking job and deal with them manually. And there are people getting arrested and getting charged for it. I guarantee that. And they are probably going to get a lot of legal coverage from various organizations out there because, you know,
well, yeah. What's the goal here? What's the goal here? The goal is to steal the spotlight from Trump so he doesn't have to keep on spewing his bullshit lies. You want to take the spotlight off of him and keep it on our side of the political aisle so we can actually get people to try to listen.
Yes.
That's because let's be honest, more and more people are getting pissed off at Trump right now.
Even Republicans, as we've seen.
Yes. Like it's going to keep on increasing. It's going to keep on going. And you need to capitalize on it by just holding the spotlight. And, I mean, there's like part of that, you know, is doing the social media presence like, you know, AOC is doing and like, you know, holding rallies, which is like, you know, what Bernie's doing right now. But there needs to be another level. There needs to be some, like, the Republicans do such a good job of just doing their outrage politics and just getting cameras on them. Yes, right?
For sure.
But we need to do our own form of that, but it's based in fact, not off of lies.
Correct. And yeah, like rules and decorum are going to have to take a huge backseat right now. You can't fight back with decorum against like a literal fascist takeover. Like, come on.
Yeah. Get real, all Trump cares about is the spotlight. Right? That's all he cares about. You take that away from him, he's going to get angrier. He's going to get more brash. He's going to say stupider things. He's going to do stupider things.
Yes.
And he's going to fuck himself over.
Continue to fuck himself over because of his emotional toddler brain getting in the way. Yeah, you're exactly right. Democrats need to use Trump's impulsivity, his immaturity, his lack of emotional intelligence. They need to use it against him. Hutch said the other night on his podcast, he was talking about he thinks they should have laughed. They should have like big laughed at some of the crazy things he was saying. And he referenced the debate. He referenced that when Trump went on his, you know, they're eating the dogs thing in the debate against Kamala, that he seemed extremely irked, and it fucked. From that point forward, he was fucked in that debate. He got shit on in that debate, and it was because a lot of people think it's because she laughed at him. She laughed at him and was like, "Wow, that's crazy." What did she say? She said that's a little extreme or whatever, right? Like that. I completely agree with that. God damn, I wish we had elected her. We would have elected her. But yeah, I guess the way I summed up my thoughts on it overall, just how the Democrats treated it, and we'll go on to this next video, is the way I wrote it down here was normally I'd have the back of the side. Normally I'd have the back of the side that fights for the things I want out of the federal government, but we just didn't see any fight that night. Al Green was the only one, and I'm glad he's there. That was pretty much what I said, is that I would normally be in the Democrats' corner on you know how they behave, you know, if they did make a scene, they did cause a ruckus, blah blah blah. If they did all that, I would be supportive of it, because again, that to me seems like a very appropriate and a very fucking American response to this type of illegal takeover, this type of garbage that happens in our government. And he's up there bragging about it. So take the opportunity and yeah, just throw off his mojo. Just get in his fucking head, laugh at him, berate him, cuss him out, call him a fucking coward liar, and then get removed or walk out. Yes. Make a scene, make something big happen, and just shit all over his night. And Al Green was the only one willing to do it. And he came out the gate doing it right away, dude. He was he was just, and nobody really followed him. They had their little signs. They had their little popsicle stick signs that they made in craft class before. Fuck off. God, that just, do more. That's what I want to say. Yeah. Do more stuff. I can't get too specific with it. If I ever get in Congress, I will think of ways to do more. Believe me. Like Jamal, I guess, like it's kind of a tangent, sorry, but like I guess there was a thing that Jamal Bowman did when he was in Congress where he pulled a fire alarm. Like, okay, like I would say like that's pretty like to obstruct some sort of government proceeding by pulling the fire alarm is probably not the way to go, especially because it's what you get seen on cameras. But like you can do far less extreme things to slow down and hold up the proceedings and just be a nuisance. Like just do those things. Like don't do the thing that the kid who doesn't want to take his math quiz. Don't do that shit. Do the thing that the class president does when he's fed up with an authoritarian teacher and just scream at him, right? Make fun of him. Then, they'll get sent to the office and go to detention, and then they'll go back to doing the work that they can still do. Like Al Green still gets votes. I don't know if censoring takes him off any committees, but I don't think he was on any notable committees in general from what I'm familiar with.